everyone. Hello, welcome. I was going to make a flag, but I didn't get around to it, so I'm just going to wave a flower at you. We're in the first day of the Make for Tomorrow online participatory art festival. Thank you so much for being here. This is event number one with, and who better to open the festival than the superb artist, Professor Steve McLeod. So thank you so much for joining us. So I think if you are a participant and you've signed up through Eventbrite, great, thanks for coming. This is brilliant. We're so happy to have you here. If you have, because we're in the festival now, there is other ways that people can come and join us. So if you are streaming this live from the Make Your Mark website, you can still interact with us, which is great. So if you signed up through Eventbrite, it'll be the normal thing. That means you're in a Zoom webinar. You've got your little Q&A box at the bottom, so do type us in a question because we love to hear from you. This is interactive. This is all about us being together in a group. If you are streaming us live, underneath the screen you'll see a little button that says ask Steve a question. So if you do have any questions or comments, or you just want to get involved, click on that. It'll open a little form. You can type in your question and that will be fed through to us by our magical digital mistress Charlotte, who's behind the scenes, and she'll pass those questions on to us. But yeah, I just want to say a big welcome to everyone and thank you so much for being here. This is the third in the series of Pinhole Camera Extravaganza. So we've been meeting with Steve. This is the third session. So for the last 3 weeks we've been meeting, and people have been making their very own cameras, which a kit was sent out by the fantastic Louis over at Hospital Rooms, and then people have been taking pictures and then sending in their negatives, and Steve's been developing them. So this is our final meeting here together online. And I must just say, because this is very, very important, is we want to do a big shout out, a massive thank you to ILFORD Photos, because they are so generous. They've been providing us with the paper. They're a brilliant company. So thank you so much to them. They have made this much more accessible and easy for more people to be involved in. So that's great. So this morning, Steve is going to be, it's a mix, a bit of a mashup. So we've got a bit of making. Steve's received some more of your negatives, those people who've been participating. So he's going to be developing those live in the dark room, which is very exciting. And some photograms, and then me and Louis from Hospital Rooms, we're just going to be having a nice chat with Steve, because aside from all this lovely making and process, Steve obviously is an artist, so we're going to have a little chat about his work and also how that connects with his mental well-being, and just get a good conversation flowing. So do get involved. This is not just about us talking to you. We want to hear from you as well, and have a chat together. So I'll hand over to Louis. He's from Hospital Rooms. If you haven't heard of Hospital Rooms before, they are amazing. Look them up on the internet. They are all about getting visual art and visual artists into mental health hospitals, to make those spaces just better places to be, because let's face it, art does make us feel better. Big believer in that. So I'll hand over to Louis now, and we get the session going. But thank you for being here. This is going to be great. Hi, Louis.
Thanks so much, Lucy. Hopefully I'm spotlighted. There we are. So I don't really have much to add. As always, welcome to the third of Steve's 3 sessions. We're delighted to have Steve again from the dark room. I'm here with Charlotte as well. So there's me, Lucy, and Charlotte, and me and Charlotte, as always, are going to be on the Q&A. So as we said, we're going to be asking Steve some questions and sort of talking with him. But if at any point you have questions about process or about Steve's work, just pop them in the Q&A. And yeah, we'll hand over to Steve, and hopefully he's got some more of your photos to start. Where have you gone? Oh, I've lost you, Steve. One moment. We've lost one of your cameras, Steve. Oh, there it is.
Oh. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're in. So over to you, Steve.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Louis, and welcome to my third session from the dark room. A bit warm today. Normally it's very cold in here, but very unseasonal weather with us. I'm not sure where you are, but with me it's a very sort of warm sort of morning. And we're sort of a bit of a, as Lucy said, a bit of a mashup today. What I'll do is I'll produce some of the pinhole prints that we have received from some of the participants. First of all, we'll do that in the red light situations, which means, like, you know, in dark rooms, obviously we have to switch off these sort of what we call white lights, and we go into a red light situation, and that's for black and white dark rooms. Obviously, working in a color dark room, you'd be in complete darkness, pitch black. So I do hope that you'll be able to see what I'm doing in the dark, but don't worry, I'll talk through the process as I'm doing it. Then I thought what I'd talk a little bit about is process and the actual craft of making photographic prints. I think it's a really important part of my practice, certainly. I don't really define myself as a photographer. I'm more of an artist who uses photography, and print production is very much part of what I do. I'm also a master printer, so I print for a lot of people for nearly 30 years now, and I really enjoy printing other people's work more so than I do my own. I'm never really satisfied with what I do. It never really comes out how I expect it to, but maybe that's life. And then I'll show you some of the works that I make. I could have just shown you sort of a portfolio of prints, but I thought I'd select a few works which really mean a lot to me, not because of the photography, but because of what I was feeling at the time or the experience that I had. Because my work is very, I suppose, pictorial in its content, and I'm a landscape photographer, but I'm not really interested in sort of geography of the landscape or topography of the landscape. I'm more about the emotion and what landscape can do to your soul and to your mind and to your well-being and things. It's an emotional connection that I have with landscape. If you check out a group called the Linked Ring, they were a group of photographers, artists around the sort of turn of the 20th century that were very much pictorialist in nature. So it is the sort of thing that I'm very much, connected to. And then I thought we'd sort of round it up with a photograms session. Very fast, very quick, lots of fun, and very simple to do. And if you get the opportunity to do it, then I think it's something that I always sort of look to the simple things, particularly in the darkroom. I don't get overly complicated in what I do. It's sort of very much about the process and getting involved and things like that. And if you have any questions either during the course of the workshop, please do ask. It is an interactive session. It's not just about me talking at you. It's very much like a dialogue. And also, if you have any questions after the event, anything that springs to mind or anything that I can help in terms of your own photography or printing, then I love engaging with people. So please do, reach out and get in touch, and I'll do my best to support you where I can. I realise that being 6'3" is not really ideal for the space that I've got, because I'm cutting my head off most of the time. So I'm sort of leaning over this. It also makes me look like I've got a very tall darkroom sink if I stand this way, but maybe that's better. But in the background, you'll see my enlarger. This is where I produce a lot of my prints with negatives. And then I have a thing called what we call a wet bench. And this is where all the trays and the water. And these conditions are great for some people. I absolutely love being in darkrooms. The smell of the chemistry, the noise, the sort of the water running, everything about it is just so, you feel so contained within it, and it feels really a lovely space to be in creating things. For others, it can be quite a claustrophobic space, and so you've got to sort of find your way and a place that sort of suits what it is you want to get from it. For me, this is this sort of perfection in terms of where my working space for darkroom printing. And it's very simple. It's just, all photography is very simple, actually. It's the use of light, exposure, and chemicals, effectively. In a previous session, we showed you how to make a pinhole camera out of a Tetra Pak, and with the paper inside. You can see here, maybe. A very simple operation. We made a pinhole by putting a drawing pin through a piece of silver foil, and effectively the light falls inside this unit onto the photographic paper, exposing it very much exactly how a camera operates. And it's a very simple, fun way of introduction into photography, and very easy to make. And if you look at the previous sessions, you'll be able to I was talking through the do's and the don'ts and how to do it. So we had some people make some pinhole cameras, and they've sent me some work to be processed. So what I'll do now, as I say, I'll go into the red light situation. I've got an overhead camera here, a roster camera here as well, so you should be able to see, I hope, the paper being processed as we go. Now, you'll see here 3 different trays, a grey one, a red one, and a white one. And there, so I can easily identify them in the dark in a very low light situation. The grey one is for the developer. Now, a developer does exactly as it says on the tin. It develops the photographic print. The second bath is called a stop bath, and the stop bath stops that development process. It kind of halts it and suspends it in the darkroom sort of light. And it's a yellow color, but when it exhausts, it goes to this vibrant sort of lavender purple, which is quite pretty, but not ideal. And the third bath in this white tray is called fixer, and that does exactly as it says in the tin also. It fixes the print, which means if you leave it in here for a little bit of time, you're then able to put the lights back on, and that's your print process done. So we go developer, stop bath, fixer. Never any other combination. It's always developer first and fixer last. Okay, and you mix the chemicals up. I tend to buy big drums, and I mix them up according to the manufacturer's guidelines, because I use them as sort of industrial sizes when I'm printing. When I was printing commercially, we would have to print probably in the region of 200 plus exhibition quality prints every day. So it's, you know, it was quite a mean feat to really get into the rhythm of printing. As I say, I will go into a red light situation. I'll talk through what I'm doing as I do it in case you can't actually see, you know, my camera doesn't pick it up. I always think about getting an infrared camera for doing darkroom sessions, and you'll be able to see everything that's going on from the exposure to the processing. But let's crack on. I've got my first envelope. I'm not sure who it's from yet, so I'm going to go into a red light. Not sure if can you see. I'm going to dull this light with that. Is that better?
Yeah, so I've gone to the other camera so we can see two of the baths there.
Yeah,
yeah, so I can see your hand just about.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tip it slightly. There we go. So you may be able to see my hand floating in front, but I'm opening the first envelope. The ripping sound. And seeing what's inside. Hopefully some photographic paper. Yeah, we have an envelope. Oh, and a little note. So, Mark Davies. I'm hoping there's going to be something on here, mate. 6 sheets, indoors, in low light. Fingers crossed, mate. No need to return it. Wow, okay. Okay, Mark, let's see what we've got. So I have got another envelope, and inside this envelope, I'm hoping there are 6 sheets. Oh, and another envelope. It's like pass the parcel with myself. Means I'll always win.
We do have Mark tuned in, Steve, and he's got his fingers crossed.
Come on, Mark. Best will in the world. Ready. Right, so I'm not sure if you can actually see this, but I'm placing them into the developer one at a time, face down, so as not to fog them, hopefully, in the camera light. And not sure what exposures Mark made, but this paper is really slow reacting to light. But it's a bit of an odd one, because normally when you expose film or darkroom paper to light, the longer you expose it, the darker it gets. Because this paper is actually a positive paper, it works a bit like a transparency. It works in reverse. The longer you expose it, the lighter it gets. So when you know, if you're troubleshooting something like this, if you've developed your paper and nothing's happening, and it's all white, it's probably because it's been massively overexposed. If it's too dark, it's been underexposed. So it's kind of, it's hard to get sort of used to that idea that the longer you expose something, the lighter it's going to get. But I'll just have a quick look to see if we've got anything on any of these yet. It takes a little bit of time. Now, this is one of the parts of the reasons I love being in darkrooms, is because when I'm developing prints, I'm being controlled really by the process. My excitement from, you know, making a photograph to, you know, exposing it in the enlarger and making that print. This bit here is the chemistry is actually in control of me, and that allows me just to freewheel a bit. And normally it allows me time to reflect or to think, and it's quite nice just looking at the tray. Sort of, I don't know if you can see it, the pieces of paper just swimming around. It gives you time to sort of well, certainly I feel that it gives me time to really think about, you know, a lot of different things in my life and work and everything really. It's just part of this sort of process. You've got to just let go and let it happen, and take time. You can leave this paper in the process for between 3 and 5 minutes. So we could just sort of leave this sort of floating around for a bit. It's at this point I might do a little dance or put the kettle on, have a cup of tea, let it do its thing. Normally my darkroom is a very loud place. I like sort of loud music, and I like the sound of the rushing water and a generator and everything that's going on. It's very industrial feeling. So it's quite nice too, sort of seeing, if you can see the light reflected in the water, it's sort of like a red moonlight or a sunlight. So there's something quite romantic about it for me. But it stinks of sort of acetic acid and sort of ammonia and sort of different smells. And there is something quite poetic about, you know, it's almost like staring at a stream and watching it run by. Mark, what's going on, mate? Can you ask Mark what sort of exposures he made?
So do you hear that, Mark?
Louis.
What kind of exposures? Yeah, so hopefully Mark will
Come back.
write to us in the Q&A. So what information did we have? It was low light indoors.
Low light indoors.
And what kind of exposure times, Mark, if you're with us?
Yeah. Oh.
No answer yet. Maybe Mark's having a cup of tea.
Oh, he switched off.
Well, we said longest for 5 minutes, he thinks.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mark. So we think last week they were all a bit overexposed. Maybe with the low light, we're more likely to have.
Yeah, well, that would be the logic of it.
Hmm.
I think what the other thing I enjoy about, I think photography is really easy. I think with photography, well, everybody's different, but for me, photography is actually really quite boring. I don't really get excited about photography, but printing, I love this. You're trying to master something, and when you're trying to master something, it could be a metaphor for life. Is that you make lots of mistakes along the way, and I don't think you ever really master it. I think it just becomes an experience, and so. But that's why I enjoy sort of printing, is this idea of that. I know what I'm doing, and I know what I should be doing, but sometimes things just don't work out the way you want them to. And I think it's that embracing that and understanding it. And I think that, you know, for a metaphor for life as well, it's quite important to realize that, you know, we're not perfect. Nothing's perfect, and things do happen. You know, and I think we just gotta sometimes just gotta embrace it and go, right, okay, that didn't work. What do I do to bring about a change? So with this, I'm not quite sure what's going on. It's really, they're light. All I can say, Mark, is that they're very, very light, which means they were overexposed. However, the information that you're providing me, that they were 5 minutes and less, should almost counter that. One, they can be fogged. You can have light leaks in your camera, pinhole camera. You can have light leaks elsewhere, maybe in the envelope. There's a variety of different reasons why things happen. But, you know, I think I said in the last session, for me, this is all about just making and crafting and doing things, and, you know, with your hands and getting involved, and as much as a distraction technique as it is about actually trying to get the perfect print, or, you know, it's just about a process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave them in there, sat like that, and I'm going to go on to the next one because I realize that I'll be here for some time. So what I am going to do is I'm going to shield. I have a hunch, and this is just a hunch, that the light from my laptop or my camera is fogging the the paper as I take it out. So I'm going to try and shield it as best I can. Okay, if I get the envelope open. Oh, it's so strong. Right. I've got another envelope which I'm opening. This time from Emma Farquhar. Sheet 1, 2 hours, 5 minutes. Wow. Sheet 2, 2 hours, 50 minutes. Forgot to set the timer. Right, okay, let's try it.
So these ones have been exposed for 2 hours.
Yeah. Commitment, that is. We toodle pip. I'm covering these up with my hands. Strictly speaking, you shouldn't put your hands in the chemistry. If you are, you should be wearing gloves. But hey ho, it's been one of those days, nights. So I've now got these 2 sheets in the chemicals as well, and I'm protecting them from the light of my laptop, from which I've dimmed as best I can, but it's still emitting some white light, which could be fogging it. So let's see how we get on. Marks, meanwhile, are still in the developer, and I'm hoping that we're going to get something. Not looking likely, Mark, I'm afraid. Not the best outcome. Keep those in there for a bit, in the soup, as they call it. Hands are washed. So, there's a great deal of unpredictability in darkrooms, as you can see. But I spent 30 years or so trying to break things, I suppose. So I've invented lots of things in terms of photography. I suppose that's why I get the badge of being a professor. I've invented photographic papers. I've invented LED technology for equipment, all sorts of different things. And so, you know, process is very much at the heart of what I do. And I'm currently working on a new project, which I'm really excited about, which is to do with digital technology, art, mindfulness, and mental health. So it's something that I'm always sort of actively involved in. And I never think, you know, somebody said to me, oh, well, don't you just sort of feel that as you get older, you stop learning? And I said, I think I said to Lucy and to Louis the other week that actually I learned something about learning and failure, because these images look to me like they might just fail, if I'm completely honest. Is that there, nothing is, you know, failures, you learn from your mistakes. And I said to Lucy, I think it's like, fail actually spells first attempt in learning. So you never fail at anything, you're just learning stuff. And if I'm honest, I'm learning a lot about these, not exposing. I think we've kind of had our time with these. There's one there's got a little faint grey in it. But I think Mark, a bit disappointed in myself, really, I suppose. I wish they'd come out. I wish I could sort of show you. When I put the light back on, I will show you some successful pinhole photographs that myself and Tim Shaw made, because I think it does sort of show you the process, you know, to the extent of having something at a finished end. And I would say too, if you get to this sort of position and this point and it's not working, then don't be disappointed or downhearted by anything. I think it's just part of, you know, the process of making.
We've had another
I am gonna show
question
you.
as well, Steve.
Yeah.
Somebody said the new project sounds really exciting. Can you tell us any more?
Yes, it's to do with augmented reality.
Wow.
It's augmented reality for mental health. And it's a process which I'm in development with R&D, and I think it's going to be a turning point, well, particularly for my own use of photography and making and art, and how it's how we interact with it, I suppose, in a clinical setting, is something that I'm really excited about. I get really excited about anything, really. I got excited about the two hedgehogs last night in the garden, not one. But I think this, in terms of my practice, is something I'm really interested in. And I can't wait to get cracking with it. Right, I'm going to transfer these from the developer into stock bath, because they're not, and we need to be doing something a bit more interesting, because they're sort of, it's a bit boring, really, isn't it? In the stock bath for about 30 seconds to 1 minute. As I say, this bath stops the development process, and it's quite integral to, you know, fine tuning your printmaking. In it goes, swim around, make sure good distribution of chemicals onto the paper surfaces, to make sure that everything is sort of cleared out, and then from there we transfer into the fixer bath. And again, what this bath does, it fixes the paper, so it halts completely the developing process and makes the work light safe, so we can turn the lights on after about a minute or so. And this is really, for a lot of people, there's two areas of magic in the darkroom. It's when you first put the paper in and you see something coming up, and I'll show you that through a photogram. But it's also when you're in this final bath, the anticipation of having to wait for the chemicals to do their work and then switch the light on, you know, to see the fruits of your labor. It's something that never, ever stops exciting me. Is this sort of, this process of making, and it's a sort of great reveal, really. Though, sad to say, I don't think it'll be a great reveal unless it's a piece of white snow any minute now. Yep, as expected. I should have just drawn on them. Oh, this one's got a lot of grey in it.
There's something coming up.
There's something on there. Yeah, there's one that's got, I'm not sure how much you'll be able to see this, but if I hold these two up.
Should we come to this screen yet?
Yeah, one's darker than the other.
Quite hard to see on our video screen.
Yeah, you know, take my word for it.
We will.
Right, okay. That wasn't the best outcome.
So,
what I will show you is some successful pinhole images that we made. If I can find them.
Before you do that, hi, it's Lucy. Just to quickly say, for those of you that have been participating in this series with Steve, if you still want to keep taking photos with your cameras, or try making a new camera, of course, so this is the last live session with Steve, but you can keep sending your stuff in. So Steve is more than happy to keep experimenting. So although we won't be having these group shared live sessions, if you're still experimenting, keep doing it. That's great. And keep sending your stuff in, because Steve very generously has offered to still have a go at developing your experiments in the darkroom. So you can kind of be in touch individually. So do keep doing that. I'll drop you all a quick email at the end of the session just to remind you and let you know how to do this. But I love that, Steve. It's all a process, isn't it? You just got to keep trying, keep experimenting, and
you do.
The process is as important, maybe more important than what actually the reveal is.
Well, I don't think I'm a great believer in that. We don't really learn an awful lot from our successes. We learn a huge amount from mistakes, and I think that's a really, for me, it's something. I've never been very academic, if I'm honest. I've never really been very good at anything growing up, and it wasn't until I found art that I think I found my calling. So I think in a way, you just keep pushing through at the things that you have an interest in. And I have a passion for art, I have a passion for photography. And I think that in a way that this process sort of encompasses all of the things that, I've been trying to search for a lot of my life. And I was never very, let's say, not very clever at school. I was never very academic. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I sort of found, or rather my calling found me, I think. And I just sort of have gone for it ever since. These are some images. This is an image that Tim Shaw from Hospital Rooms took. So I sent him some paper and he made a little pinhole camera, and he sent this back. That's a picture of his apartment, his flat. This is one I took outside the darkroom, actually, of my garden. And this is one I made last week, which I love, this little one. I'm going to put this in a little frame. You can't really, I don't know if you can really see this terribly well because of the light shining on it, but it's very out of focus. It's very drab and, soft, but it's very delicate. And it's very sort of, it's reminiscent of how I sort of felt at the time. As a shaft of light came through a cloud and it just sort of blasted this sort of edge of the print. And I just love the sort of it just feels like a lovely little print. But print's been around a long time, and if you think about the history of printmaking in terms of photography, where Fox Talbot and his peers were making these photograms, these are this is something we made last week. This is a very simple photogram by placing objects onto photographic paper. So they were coating different papers and tissues and films and things with light-sensitive photographic chemicals and exposing it to light. And after the advent of these pictures of photograms that were being made very early on, I actually dug out here a very early. This is an original salt print. So this was made, I think, 1884. And this is a very, very old printmaking process. And it's a process which I kind of sort of brought, I sort of practiced a lot of it in my early years as a photographer. I was really into printmaking and making prints. So this is a very early salt print from a very, very long time ago. But the process of making contact with something, so a negative or object onto photographic paper, is something that we still continue with today. For instance, I'm working with Hospital Rooms at the moment on, I don't know if you can see, can you see this?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, totally clear.
So this is a cyanotype. So the cyanotype is the cyanotype chemicals are coated onto this paper. So I coat it on with a brush, and then I let it dry and I expose it to sunlight. And the action of the sunlight, I make a negative. I'm going to work backwards. So that's the final print. This is the negative that I use. The drawn acetate. Can you see?
Yeah.
So it's a drawn acetate that was overlaid on top. So it's overlaid and exposed to sunlight. And once it's exposed to sunlight, simply washing this paper in water reveals this. So these areas are masked away from the light by this negative. And I made this negative from, I was quite depressed, actually. I was really fed up, and I don't know what to do with myself. So I love drawing as much as I love, all this sort of stuff. And so I spent a lot of time drawing shadows. And if you look at my work from the Hospital Rooms Bluebell unit in the gym, there's a sort of like a vista of plants on the walls. Now, they're not photographs of plants. They're the actual drawings of the shadows of plants that I photographed. And then I montaged them in Photoshop to create this kind of meadow vista. So they are from nature, but they're not of nature. And that's a key part of my work. So I was quite depressed. So I spent a lot of time drawing shadows, actual size shadows of plants in my garden at this size. And then I was just sort of, and it just really, what I was doing is I was drawing without taking the pen off of the paper. because it was an exercise for me of distraction. And so I did a whole series of these drawings, and it just felt so beneficial to me to be doing something like that. And then I photographed that drawing, and then I made these little prints. And then from those prints, I scanned this and I made my negative. And then that makes the cyanotype. So it's very protracted, but I was on a kind of journey. I never really intended to make the cyanotypes. But I needed to do something that, well, to be honest, distracted me, or to sort of make me feel like I was actually had some kind of purpose again. And it's a very simple thing to do. So I really sort of went on this little movement around my garden, and then eventually landing back up in the dark room, making those things, and then back out in the garden again, exposing the prints to sunlight. And I felt I had a kind of purpose again in what I was doing. And it was the sort of thing that led, I think the Bluebell unit had a big influence in that sort of way of thinking of nature, but, in a different way.
Steve, I've got a picture of the Bluebell unit. Do you want me to share it? So
yeah, could you share it?
Yeah. Here it is.
Share it, and I'll so there. So if you lie down in that room, you feel like you're in a little meadow. And this is a montage of shadows of plants, and not of the actual plants themselves. And I think that's how I felt with the Bluebell unit in that space. It was almost a feeling of that there is a kind of reality in existence in these things, but it's a sort of idea and the notion of there could be something else as well. And often in life, what we see is not what we're looking at. And I do believe that often in nature, that what we're looking at is not what we see. And I go through a sort of emotional sort of journey in terms of trying to, in many respects, think about what nature does to me, what the environment does, and how it, supports my well-being. Do you want me to show you some of my work, or do you want to do a photogram?
What's the time? I think we've got. It'd be nice to see a little bit more of your work quickly if
Okay.
we've got time for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if I go on to, can you go onto the big camera?
Yeah. So I'll come back to that.
We've
But just
also
to say
had we've
go on,
had a
Charlotte.
lovely comment, Steve, from Mark that's really captured, I think, why we're doing this, saying, I had my doubts I would get an image, but I had fun making the camera, which is just the whole point, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we should put too much pressure on ourselves. And that's really, thank you for that, Mark, because I think it does encapsulate the whole, what we're trying to achieve. It's not about the end result, it's the journey along the way. And I think these workshops are as much about shared experiences and shared, interests, and also, there is a technical aspect too, but I think most importantly, it is about that journey. It's not really about what's at the end of it. And so leading to that, it's very kind of you, Mark. I think that's fantastic. Sort of, I'm a bit OCD, and I've just wrecked my darkroom. It just looks a right mess. I'm going to show you two pictures now. They're in a frame. Can you see them?
Yeah. So we're getting a bit of reflection from your computer, but
There.
yeah, that's good. So they're quite.
So when I was, I don't know how old I was. I was certainly I gave up on photography. I had a breakdown. I had what we might call an episode. I've got a bipolar condition, a high functioning bipolar condition, and I had an episode, and I gave up. I didn't want to do anything. In fact, I didn't want to do anything or be anywhere. So I kind of gave up on everything, and I went back to the Highlands of Scotland, where I'm from, and spent a bit of time just walking everywhere. And I realized that walking has become a very, very important part of my life and well-being, and just wandering. I often go wandering around with my wife and my daughter. We just wander places. We don't really go anywhere. We just wander about and then end up back at home. And I've wandered all over the world, but at that time I didn't want to wander anymore, and I didn't want to walk, and I didn't want to do anything, and I felt really low. And I was out on a walk with my dad, and I walked past these trees. Look, I can't believe it's the only print I've ever got of this. I walked past these trees in a forest, and there were silver birds, and it was like they were exploding out of the ground in a massive Sitka spruce and Norwegian fir trees and everything. There's these little outcrop of silver birds that seemed to sort of defy the logic of the plantation that they were in. They were sort of not really meant to be there because it was a big sort of conifer forest, and I got kind of captivated. So I would walk every day back to these silver birches, and then my dad sort of suggested, he said, why don't you just pick up the camera again, and why don't you just take one photograph? And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I want to go off and do something or nothing actually. And then he sort of cajoled me into doing it, and I took that photograph, and it reignited my, I suppose, a passion for photography, because my photography hadn't changed, but it had changed me. And I think what it had done was made me think differently about what photography can do. I think I've been trying for a very long time to be a kind of person or a kind of photographer. I wasn't very well, and I kind of embraced that feeling of not being very well at all. And so I decided from then really to sort of change the way that I think about art, or the way that I interact with art, and why I do what I do. And rather than being this sort of professional photographer or the person that other people wanted me to be, I thought actually I had to be a bit more honest. And it's actually just been a huge benefit to me in terms of my well-being to be open and honest, and to talk and to listen, and just to be just more sort of open about what I've got. I've got a condition that can't be cured. I just have to manage it. So that photograph really changed me in a lot of ways. Next one is this. So this is part of a series of work that I did called Nil, and I just love this print. It's just, I don't know if you can't even see this, but it's like an etching. It's not a photograph.
We can sort of just about sort of see the graininess to it.
So this taught me a lot about. This is just a normal negative, but I've done an awful lot to it in the printing process, and it made me. I chose this image because again, I was going through quite a pivotal point in my life, because I was working as a commercial photographer. I was doing all sorts of different things, and it was about light. I think for the first time ever, I saw light in a different way. I think if you can see this, my relationship to light and dark changed with this photograph. And it's in the Highlands of Scotland. And it made me think of this idea of, do you know the term contre-jour? So you're looking into the light. And that defies a lot of what photographers and photography tells you to do. It's like photographing into a light. You should always have the light behind you or at the side of you, not in front of you. But I feel this idea of contre-jour. We're always walking into light and dark, aren't we? And in the way that we go through life. And I felt this idea of like light and towards the light, and always look towards light when, at times when you feel just quite, well, just at any time really. I think it's just a good sort of little mantra. Always look towards the light. And it, so this isn't really about photography. It's about printmaking in a way, because it's bringing out that sort of essence of light and dark. But it's more than that. And my work is always loaded with metaphor. There's always a narrative going on beyond photography. So this image here is part of a long-term 10-year project I did called Nil. You can see it. There's a bit of a punt, but you can see it on my website if you want. There's a whole series, and every single image in that series that was shot over a 10-year period was shot contre-jour. shot into the light very specifically, and it
What's
counters
the
this
word,
notion of what
Steve?
photography should be about. Yeah.
What was the phrase, into the light? Is it French?
Yes, contre-jour. My Scottish French is not very good. I do apologise.
No, I
The
just
Lions didn't rub off on me.
Contre-jour.
Yeah, contre-jour. And I thought this idea of actually countering the norms of notions of what photography is, that you're told to do this, you're told to do that, you should be doing it like this. I sort of felt very much that actually you just do it the way you feel, rather than anything. And actually that body of work really sort of broke my own notions of what photography is from a technical perspective. I'll show you this. How much time have we got?
It's 13 minutes too, so that's a beautiful one. So this one's a lot more
That's
glossy.
falling leaves. So this is from a project called it's LI plus sign Li, which is the what's the thing? It's for lithium. What's that? The thingy.
The chemical.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, chemical thingy chart. So it's called, the project's called Li. So this project, these are falling leaves on a time lapse in a forest near here, not far away in the distant universe. So I sort of been progressing with my photography for years, producing bodies of work, and at some point in 2016 I had another surprise. I had a bit of an episode, and it came out of the blue. I think I'd been working too hard with a high functioning bipolar condition like I have. I just go like an absolute mad dog. I throw myself at things. So I have to sort of learn to restrain myself in some ways. But in 2016, I got quite unwell again, and it sort of crept up on me because I thought I'd be managing my well-being. I was working, I was eating, I was resting, I was doing everything, and it just sort of crept up on me, and I didn't see it coming. And I think I realized that with our mental health, often it's not just us that we affect, it's the people around us, it's everybody around us, our friends, our family, our work colleagues, or whoever. We touch people in many different ways and are touched by them, and I didn't see it coming. So I was quite, again, not quite right, but I met this lovely psychiatrist, and he on the NHS, and he just gave me an ultimatum, really, and he put me on something I always resisted going on, lithium. I thought lithium for me was a bit of a failure on my part. I thought if I have to resort to medication again, then I'm going backwards, not forwards. But I would say that actually my reticence and my denial and my negativity about it was unfounded, because I'm on lithium now, and that work that I produced called Lithium was actually a celebration of that. I suppose coming to terms with myself, and I'm happy to say that it's not ideal. Sometimes it makes me feel not very well, but my life is so much better for accepting help. I suppose I think I fought it for a long time, and I sort of used that project to really reflect on a celebration of change and an ability to, I suppose, embrace, and look for the other way, look for another way. And so that work isn't really that readily seen. I've only exhibited some of the work, I think once or twice, but it's a very personal project to me, because I sort of turned the corner, and I went on from that project to produce a project called Hala, which is Halo in Arabic, And that was a monumental piece of work that I did in the Middle East. And that was because I was free. I was free, and I could think just completely differently and use photography in a multitude of different ways than I would when I first set out. But I suppose that journey says as much about me as it does about the craft that I'm involved in. So, you know, I think art for me can take you in so many different ways, in so many different places. And you don't have to go very far. You just be like under the stairs in your front room. And with that, I'm going to show you how to make a really, really simple photograph. Okay, I'm done.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. I think
Right.
Steve,
Yeah.
one thing that I really liked from that sort of bit of talking about all those works, you're talking about when your sort of dad was encouraging you to make work, and you sort of you talked to us a bit about the kind of walking process. And I think that thing of so much of the process being about not actually even doing the thing, and sort of sometimes not taking the photo in the first place can be quite a nice thing to sort of not always have your camera, and sort of not beat yourself up for not doing it in that moment, and coming to it when it feels right.
I think so. I think what's really I've grown to realize is that you're dead right, Louis. Sometimes it's the experience of something is far richer and deeper meaning than actually capturing it on a phone, you know, a phone or photographing it. It's just having that time. I mean, I'm lucky. I use large format cameras, so I spend a lot of time setting things up and looking as a result. So I spend more time looking than I do actually taking photographs, because I've said it before, I find photography rather boring. It's a bit sort of like click and it's done, so what? I think it's more about the process of building up to it, and then what happens afterwards is the exciting bit for me. And often I take less photographs maybe than I should, but that's my mind. That's just I think ego playing tricks and going, oh well, you need to capture this, you need to. So I don't think we always have to go about our business photographing everything we see. Sometimes we just have to enjoy things and look at things and have that a different kind of experience. Our memories are none, you know, they're no less, you know, they're not diluted, they're not, you know, as strong as, you know, as they could be. I think memories often are stronger than actual the sort of two-dimensional object that we think will provide a memory for us. And walking is really important as well. I find it in my business life as well, with my being, you know, often when we've got difficult decisions to make as company directors, or when we're talking or I'm talking to staff, we go for a walk. Somehow it seems easier to go for a walk and talk to people than it does actually sitting down in an office and go, hey guys, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's often the process of walking really helps the mind. You process things differently. I'm a great believer in it. And I do believe more than walking, wandering, just go for a wander with very little expectation. As long as you find your way back, it's fine. Or you've maybe brought a flask or some biscuits. But you know, I wander all over. I wander all over the place. You know, and I really think it's got such health benefits. Are fantastic. Right, photograms. I showed you this briefly. So this is a piece of photographic paper with objects placed on top of it, and then what I use a flashlight to obstruct and mask the paper or expose it. And depending on what you use, obviously the more transparent things are, the more the light penetrates through, and the more solid the things are, the less light that penetrates through. What I find magical about these is you don't know what you're going to get. It's a bit like a lucky dip. And I really, really enjoy it. It's just so much fun, and they're a load of rubbish actually, but they are just good fun. So what I've got some photographic paper. This is darkroom paper that I would normally print on. Okay, I'm going to put a piece of that on there, and then I'm going to put objects on top of it. This is all under the red light situation, remember. And then I'm going to take a torch and do a quick flash like this, and then process it. Hopefully, we'll get something out of it. Ready?
Yeah.
See, this is where I'm going to dim this a little bit. Can you see anything?
And let's go over to that camera.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, you can see, yeah.
Right. So inside this box is a piece of black plastic which protects the. So little darkroom tip: if you're in a dark room and you're not sure about things, sometimes people put the paper upside down and they don't know which side the light sensitive emulsion is on. If you stick it in your mouth, the bit that sticks to your lip is the bit that's got the photographic emulsion on it. That's particularly useful if you're in a colour darkroom where everything is right. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick some objects on here and try and construct something meaningful. He says.
So what we got there, is that a glass bottle?
So I've got a glass bottle, some tissue, and I'll have another glass bottle. Let's see what this does. Now I'm going to just record. I've got lots of still lives that I make of things with found objects, and I get a bit funny about their positioning and their relationship and how they all play together and everything. Right, so I've laid 3 bottles and some tissue paper on top of the photographic paper. I'm now going to quickly flash it. Now, for those of you with eagle eye vision, you'll see that it casts some. Now it goes into the developer. Back up here for now. Right, can you see the paper? It's already developing out.
Yeah, we can just about see that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, on the right, there's a really clear.
Yeah.
So just a really short time in the developer there.
Yeah, it goes boom. This photographic paper that I'm using here is so much more sensitive than the positive paper that you would have put in the pinhole cameras. It's a lot what we call faster. It's more sensitive to light. And then I put it in stock bath, and then I put it in the fix. That should be it. I'll put the light on. Right, which camera do you want to go to?
Should we go up to your front camera?
Yeah. Right. That bottle is that bottle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a bit reflective. Hang on.
Should we try the other? Should we try the other camera where we don't have, because we won't have as much phone reflection maybe? Yeah, that's a bit better, I think. So the bottle, yeah, I can spot that, and it's sort of also a bit blurred around the edges.
Yeah, they are, because it's soft, because it's light. I'll do another one. Because it's glass and the light refracts through it, and because I was shaking the torch, you can imagine the light and the shadows go all over the place. What I'll do is I'll do it with some physical hard objects, okay?
Yep.
So you can actually see maybe a bit more.
But even though it's sort of static objects, you can sort of capture that movement of the light. I think that's
kind
of very ethereal.
Yeah, let's do some rolls of tape. Right, rolls of tape. And this again, hang on. Can you see me here? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Right, another piece of paper out of the box. This time, I'm going to stand up some rolls of paper. Can you see that?
I'm excited about this one. Yeah. So they're all standing on their end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This time. You don't need much light. It's so fast.
So quick.
And I did this with about 150 school kids in the Middle East in the desert. These teenagers, and it was just. If you look at the work that I did from the Bluebell unit, you can see. Oh, this is more like it. What I love about photograms is that you have this physicality in what you do, and you have this recognition of these objects. And then what you're almost creating is an essence of an object, if that makes sense. A suggestion of something rather than the thing itself. And I find
like
that
it's shadow.
Yeah, it's like it's soul. In a weird. No, it's not like it's soul at all. That would just be weird. Yeah, that piece of sellotape, it's got such soul, man. Right, ready?
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, really simple. Just rolls of tape. What's not to love about that? It looks almost kind of Bauhaus.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
I guess with that shape as well, you can start to sort of see whether that is sort of becoming a figure or.
I think I'll call this bespectacled man.
I like that.
I think I'm losing the plot. But what you can see is, let's move this trail. So the solid tape, which is, which one is it? This one. That's the solid tape. Yeah. And then you've got things like the sellotape, which are sort of reflective and see-through. They bounce the light differently.
Yeah.
So, using different objects will create different sort of outcomes. And it stretches, because what you're doing is you're casting shadow as well as you are blocking light. So you're sort of playing around with perspective, you're playing around with scale. It's a simple way, and it goes right back to the early days of photography, where they were using paper negatives and things, and to sort of make contact prints. So and it's the same with this. With my cyanotype, I'm just using the cyanotype and that negative on top to block light, and I'm using it now in a contemporary way, but it's the same as it was way back then. So you're sort of utilizing the same skills in different ways, and I think that it's just, and it's simple. It's really simple to do. Obviously you need access to chemicals and things like that, but if you can. I mean, my first darkroom was under a stairs. It was very, very small sort of space, and I just sort of would have one tray on a shelf here, and then one underneath, and then one underneath like that, and then I'd wash them in the sink in the kitchen. So, you can actually make do with, very simple things. You don't need lots of equipment. This last week I was showing you how to make, these are food trays. So rather than using these big fancy trays, I was just using these little food trays instead to make prints. So, and that goes back to the photogram thing, the pinhole as well. You don't need fancy cameras. What's important is imagination. I think is really have imagination and go on that journey, just to sort of really enjoy the process in it.
There's a really lovely comment that's just come through that said the photogram is incredible, but thank you so much. Apparently their new mantra is always look towards the light, and they're off for a wander.
I'll get their name and address and I'll send them that print.
Oh, lovely.
So before you wander off, please do just email us over your name and address, and Steve will send that over. So if you want to email that to, I'll give you an email to send it to. Thanks so much, Steve.
Email it to them.
Okay.
Email it to the Make the Mark at Sussex Partnership, and we'll pass it on. That would be great. We have actually just gone past 12 o'clock midday, so we've been. No, I just didn't want to stop you, and I agree with that person. I've noted down, just to say, everyone, before we started the session, when we were just having a quick chat about what we were going to include in the session this morning. Steve, you said to us you're not very good at talking about your own work. Well, I completely disagree, because just like that person who sent in that last comment, you just, I mean, I was really moved at lots of it. You gave so many insightful, wise, but just really real and true tips, some really good practical tips for finding purpose when you're in dark places, that you just draw, don't take your pencil off the page, through to some really profound, beautiful expressions of your experience and of how you make work and why you make work, and your relationship to landscape. And it's just like the other person, I'd written that down, that we're always walking into light and dark, but always try to look towards the light. It was a really nice one. What were the other ones that you said? There was something really beautiful. Oh yeah, we're always told what to do, but really you should do something the way you feel it. And that photography hadn't changed, but it changed you, and that process of art hasn't changed, but you're changed by it. There were some amazing, beautiful things, and I love the way you talk about landscape and being in landscape, and yes, capturing it is part of that experience, but just really, really good. It's serendipitous. I was listening to a random little podcast this morning, and the woman who was speaking, she mentioned, I don't know, people, you should look it up at home, but it's a poem called Wild Geese by Mary Oliver, and it's very much about that, just being in nature, and that you're accepted there, you're part of it. I think it was really it was really beautiful to hear you talk, Steve, and beautiful to see the process, but also that it is deep, but also there's fun to be had in this, and that it can be simple and light also. I think what a gorgeous time to spend in your presence, Steve. Honestly, I know I feel renewed, and I'm sure that everybody else who's been tuning in has got something for themselves out of this session that's just been really, really good. What a wonderful way to spend a Monday morning. It's been great. Just to quickly,
great. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, just to reiterate, for those of you that have been in touch with us and with Steve about these 3 sessions, it's true, Steve is very generously, because I know we were trying to squeeze it into actually what is quite a tight time frame of these 3 weeks. So for those of you that haven't been part of it, Steve's been meeting with the group for the last 3 Mondays, including this one. And in between, Louis has been sending out kits to make cameras and paper, and then people have been posting them back, which is in case you didn't realise what was quite happening. So Mark and Emma, for example, are 2 of those people who've made a camera and sent their stuff back in. But for those of you who have been part of it, do please keep sending your photographic negatives and your experiments in, because Steve's more than happy to keep developing them and see what happens, and we can be in touch that way. But I just want to say a massive thanks to everyone for being here, for being part of that project. If it's your first time here, I'm so glad that you could join us, and I hope it's been a really brilliant morning for you. This is part of our week-long festival, so Make for Tomorrow. There's this wonderful online participatory arts program that's been running for 2 months, and this is our finale week, so we've got stuff happening every day. So do please, throughout the program, people have been signing up through Eventbrite, but for this we're streaming everything live on the Make Your Mark website, so just go there. It's makeyourmarknhs.org, and you can have a little look, see what else is happening in the program, and just tune in live and tell your friends. It's for everyone. It is for everyone. And I think these times are, well, life can be a challenge, full stop, but I think collectively we know these times are hard. They throw daily daily difficulties and challenges at us, and I think it's really important that we can come together. And I think, as Steve has so eloquently put this morning, there is purpose to be found in making, and there is purpose to be found in coming together to talk about these things and to sharing these things. So do please join us. We would love to have you there. I must just quickly say, because it is important, but I also do have to say it. Yeah, a big thank you to our funders. So a massive thank you to Arts Council England and also NHS Charities Together. Without their support, obviously none of this could happen. So we're really grateful, and heads on the Sussex Partnership Trust's charity who fundraised to make this project happen. Massive thanks to you, and to our other art partner, Arts Over Borders, and our brilliant tech partner, CogApp. Yeah, it's been really good, and we hope to see you throughout the rest of the week. But I think, Louis, Charlotte, Steve, you got any final words of farewell or whatever you want to say?
I just want to say thank you to everybody if you tuned in. Thank you as well to you, Lucy, and to Louis and Charlotte and everybody involved in the back end of everything. I think without the team effort, I think, these things, aren't the same. And I just wanted to thank you for letting me share with everybody, my own sort of experiences and things as well, because I find it hugely uplifting for me as well. And I hope I sort of inspired a few people to, keep on making and to push and experiment and just explore, art and the craft of making and that's all I can say really. Thank you.
Oh, that's great.
I've got nothing really to add. I think both of you have spoken so eloquently, and as Steve said, thanks to everyone who's joined in. You've sort of made the sessions, and it's please keep on being creative, and hopefully there'll be some fruits. But again, the process is what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think that's it for today, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. Do please join us. We've got a really brilliant participatory workshop with the amazing Bindi tomorrow afternoon at 2:00. So do tune in for that and have a little check out of the website. But thank you so much for being here, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Rooms. Bye. Bye. Bye.